Hey there, savvy home buyers and sellers. This is Jeff O'Leary, the Village Guru, and today we're going to go over December 2020 Greater Toronto real estate market update. Whether you're a buyer or seller, you're not going to want to miss this. Let's go! Well, here we are in the last month of 2020, and all I can say is, what a crazy year. What started out really hot in the GTA was obviously came to a screeching halt with the beginning of coronavirus, where nobody knew what was going on, sales fell off a cliff, and then we turned around and into the summer, sales picked up again and even surpassed on a month-to-month basis what was going on at the same time last year throughout the fall. And now we're getting to the end of the year where people are wondering what's gonna happen. Now listen, what we saw in 2020 was a recovery from a drop due to an external circumstance like coronavirus. However, as I predicted in my videos throughout the summer, I knew the market was going to come back just because the market fundamentals were still there. We still had population growth. We still had enough people with jobs who were able to afford to buy the home. Now, as we've gone through the fall, we've seen some new trends emerge, and that is the growth in sales and prices in the 905 and beyond. So what we're seeing is in Toronto, yes, house prices have gone up, and we'll get to that in a moment, but what we're really seeing are the outlying areas where prices have really gone up. And I think that just reflects the new reality that COVID or not, a lot of people now are able to work remotely from home most of the time, which means that they're exploring areas that would have been too far away before because they can get a bigger house and that works for their life. However, when we look at Toronto real estate as a whole, again, if you look at the fundamentals and what the long-term plan of what's going to happen, I still remain bullish on the whole area, just with the amount of growth that's going to continue and is going to be even fueled more by the record amount of immigration that the government wants to bring in. So I think the next couple of years are going to be some exciting time in Toronto real estate. All right, so now let's get to the numbers reported from November of this month compared to the same time last year. In the GTA as a whole, sales were up over 24% compared to the same time last year. Again, this is due to the held back demand that happened during the spring when we didn't have a lot of sales. So this was pretty much predictable. Now, when we get to average selling price, this is where you can see a big difference between Toronto and the outlying areas. So when we look at the city of Toronto, house prices as a whole were up just over 5% year over year to the same time last year. However, when you dive into those numbers, there's actually quite a bit of a variance depending on property type. So for example, a detached house in the city of Toronto was up over 10%, while a condo have only appreciated maybe 2 to 3%. So you're seeing a divergence again, lifestyle properties based on the reality of COVID-19. Now, as a vaccine comes, as things change, I think you're gonna see the rebalancing and things go back to a little bit more of normal. Now, when we look at Mississauga, not quite as big of a spread between condos and houses. In Mississauga, detached houses were up over 11% year over year, and then condos were up over 7%. So not as big of a spread, but still condos haven't done quite as well as the detached house segment. However, when we go to the outlying areas, so your Kitchener-Waterloos, your Hamiltons, your Barries, anywhere within a couple of hours of the city, we're seeing record price growth. We're seeing 25% year over year. In fact, I personally have been hunting for a new investment property in Kingston, Ontario, and prices there have gone up 26% year over year. It is crazier than it was in Toronto in 2016. And this again is being fueled by people not having to work downtown anymore, not having to commute. So this is the one trend I would seriously keep an eye on into 2021, and let's see what happens when they do roll out a vaccine. And finally, let's talk about what's been going on in the news. Federal government has announced a number of initiatives over the last couple of days, including increasing the assistance that they'll give to first-time homebuyers, which will really help in places like the GTA, where most first-time homebuyers couldn't even take advantage of these programs because the price of the home was too high in order for the income and the amount of money borrowed to qualify. So that's good news there. The other thing that they announced was talking about a foreign homebuyers tax federally across Canada. Now, working in a market where we've had a foreign buyers tax since 2017, I can tell you right now that it might not be the best solution to the problem. Now, I agree there's foreign home buyers and there's a lot of speculation going on in our market, but the problem is it's not the foreign buyer that bothers me. In fact, I don't care where you're from if you want to buy a house. What it is actually the money and where it comes from. To give you an example, if you wanted to go buy $1 million house in Toronto and put the standard 20% down, you're looking at coming up with $200,000 in cash. Now, if you're someone in Canada who makes that type of money and you're able to afford it, in order to save up the $200,000 in cash, you're probably working in a profession where you're being taxed at close to 50% of your income. So in reality, you need to make $400,000 in order to come up with the $200,000 in cash. So when someone from another country comes where that money is not taxed, they're at a huge advantage. And this is what's been happening in Toronto for the last 10 years. And basically, as a Canadian, you're being penalized because we do have high tax rates for our progressive society. However, our real estate market has become global because a lot of people are investing in that market. So when we talk about foreign home buyers, we got to be careful. It doesn't matter where they're from. I think the government really needs to look hard at how money flows into this country to make it a little more fair for everybody involved. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed my market update for December 2020. This will be my last market update for the year. Stay tuned in January. We're going to get into way more detail because I really think this is going to be an exciting year. In the meantime, have yourself a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, or whatever other holiday you celebrate. Be safe, and we'll see you soon.